3, 2, 1. And good morning, everyone. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty. This is my good friend, R. Wayne Steiger, and this, of course, is not your normal Sunday morning show on the New Cosmic Knowledge channel, and soon to be later on also over on R. Wayne Steiger's channel. Wayne, a very happy Sunday morning to you, my friend.
Good morning to you, sir. As I would say, greetings and salutations.
Greetings and salutations, absolutely, and I accept both, and I appreciate that, and it's nice to know that we've got a good group of people that are going to be here with us, and this Saturday night, I'm going to be going to jail with Rex Bear. We'll be at the Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary up in Tennessee for a great overnight paranormal extravaganza, so that should be a lot of fun.
That should be interesting.
It'll definitely be interesting. And speaking of interesting, Wayne, I had Sovereign Key on my channel yesterday. She was gracious enough to come on and talk. And I also talked to Magenta Pixie last week. I don't know if you know who she is, but she's one of the leading kind of unicorn and rainbow new age type people. And she has a passion for trying to unite the woo-woo new agers and the more hardcore truthers so we can present a united front. And there's more and more of this coming up about this idea of it's time for us to take back our divinity, our sovereignty, and our freedom. And I just want to read you something that is from a book I wrote a while back. It was on Coast to Coast, Serpents and Doves in the Garden of the Gods. And we all know about the story of the Tower of Babel, right? We all know what we were told, and we all know what the King James says. But let me just give you the straight Hebrew to English rendition. And folks, we need to recognize that the Old Testament, not really a Christian document. It's an ancient collection of Hebrew and Chaldean literature, which was borrowed heavily from the Sumerian and even earlier texts. Wouldn't you agree, Wayne?
You see my whiteboard behind me?
Yeah.
You probably did. We didn't even talk about this. So the deception has been that that book you hold, the Old Testament, was actually written by the Jews, not the Hebrews, the Jews, while they were in captivity in Babylon. The Tower of Babel existed. It was Nebuchadnezzar who built it.
Well, let me give you the straight from Hebrew to English rendering of what the people did and of what Yahweh, who I don't really think was Yahweh, I think he usurped the name. But this is, folks, this is actually the literal Hebrew to English rendering. I know what the King James says, but this is what the actual Hebrew to English rendering says. It says, "And the people still had one language and spoke with one mouth of the true accounts. They decided as one to pull up stakes and set out on a journey to move away from their present situation. And they said among themselves, 'Let us choose to make ourselves pure, even thoroughly pure.' They said with one accord, 'Let purity be our pillow, and let it tie us together like mortar. Let us build an exciting abode for ourselves, opposed to the oppression that we are experiencing, a high tower and strong fortress, the head of which is the highest in the heavens. Let us accomplish the plans of our gods and make a reputation of lasting holiness for ourselves.'" So this is saying that it wasn't rebellious men, it was men that wanted to return to the way of their gods, and this is how the Lord responded. The Lord saw that the people had repented, and this is straight from the Hebrew. The Lord saw that the people had repented and decided to dedicate themselves to the high and lofty ones of heaven. If we allow them to bind together like this in one voice and mind, nothing can stop them from breaking their bondage and being reconnected to the original plan and doing anything they intend to do. Let us go down, mix up and water down their intention and communication so they cannot combine with their neighbors. And he divided them so they could not rise above the clay. And they ceased and left off trying to get back to their former abode and station that they had held. And what this is actually telling us, Wayne, is that men realized their bondage and their captivity, were going to rebel against the Lord, and I think they almost made it, but they got sold out by the Hebrews, the Jews, who went with Yahweh and caused them to lose that battle. But they did it to give us hope and inspiration. And as I talk with Magenta Pixie and I talk with Sovereign Key and I talk with a lot of people, it seems like it's time to remember Babel. We're at the same place again once where I believe the God of this universe is gone, and we can rise up and we can take back our sovereignty, our divinity, and our freedom. It is time for sapiens to unite and throw off the bondage of these false deities, tulpa, thought forms, whatever they are, in my humble opinion.
I couldn't argue with you. I think the thing that I ponder more and more is this. When a lie has been told for so long and becomes the foundation of all truth, then when truth is revealed, it is only seen as a lie.
It's like Shane just said in the chat room. People are not going to easily accept this truth, Jeff.
So, you see, folks, this is a lie. This Bible, it's a lie. But we read from it, we study from it, we even base our history on it.
Wayne, I even have to admit that the Dake's Annotated Reference Bible is a lie.
It's a lie.
This was the Bible Pentecost was built on. This is the Bible Jimmy Swaggart said, if you don't have one of these, you're stupid. But it's a lie, too, at least 80% of it, in my opinion.
Well, and that's the problem. So when truth comes, listen, it could come to you and I, and we would both look at each other and go, I don't think so. You know, and it's really the mind trap that we are in right now. And I don't know if this is a rescue plan or this is a suicide mission.
Does it really matter, Wayne?
Well, it does for me.
Would you rather live like a dog or die like a sovereign being?
No, I'm going to go out swinging, brother.
I know.
I mean,
this is
but
a big Bible. Somebody said that's a big Bible.
It's a big Bible.
It's a big Bible.
God is big. Ask Jesse.
I used to walk around like this preaching it, and the Lord said, hallelujah.
Well, you know, Jesse Duplantis is going to get himself a new Falcon 7. So, and he said Jesus came to him and told him Jesus wanted that Falcon 7.
Jesus might have come to him. A thought form, a tulpa called Jesus might have told him that.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're dealing with the God of all universe, you could probably get an upgrade model to maybe one of those saucers.
Yeah, I mean, if he's really the God of, like Captain Kirk said
forgive me.
Which was Captain Kirk said in The Final Frontier, what does God need with a starship?
Exactly.
What does God need with an airplane? If Jesse was really walking in truth and power, he could do like Jesus did, the Master did, or the Christ did, whatever you call him, and just transmute himself from one place to the other. Jesse, get some faith, not a plane.
That's the point. Now that's faith, brother.
That's faith. You want to impress me? Don't show me your jet. Disappear from here and wind up in Denver like that.
Like that. I think that, but it gets back to this whole thing. I wrote this down this morning in my meditation. That I believe that we have all been, our species has been immersed into a lie. And as I continue to ponder this, Jeff, with this thing called the information age, right, what it has done is that, thank you, I just got the perfect metaphor. When a man has been in the desert and for 2-3 days, no water, and you suddenly bring him up to a fire hydrant, but you tell him the only way that he can get the water is he's going to have to drink from the fire hydrant. Impossible to do. So what does the man do? He's either going to die of thirst with all the water he could ever use right next to him, or he's going to have to rethink how he approaches it.
I've drank out of a lot of hoses that were coming out real hard. You just got to kind of put your hand on it and let it.
That's the point. Out. You have to divert it. You have to divert it and allow it to come in at a slower stream. But I think what's happened to our species, Jeff, as watching your interview with Sovereign, is the fact that we're at a point now, and I think Magenta Pixie would agree with this as well, is that the information is just flooding in and it's overwhelming us.
And you know what, Wayne? You said it's the information age, and what we're getting from non-sacred sources really is the disinformation age.
That comes with it.
Disinformation and so much misinformation that it becomes hard for us through this cacophony to hear the truth and the downloads and the inspiration that's coming from off-world sources and from higher self sources and from divine sources. So we've really got to become masters of being able to sift through the cacophony, sift through the noise, and hear the still small voice of the Spirit. And I can't think of any better way to do that than through meditation. I mean, Sandra has me up to now 30 minutes a day, and it does definitely make a profound difference in your life.
Yeah, I just wish everyone else quit that. You ever do a ride along with cop?
I did do a ride along with a cop. Yep.
Well, anyone can do it. You just have to make a request. You ought to do it because I'm going to tell you, Jeff, we're in a cocoon in this reality that you and I have, everyone else joining, which we call our community.
Right.
Outside our cocoon, the world is on the brink. There is so much anger. It's my concern is that this cacophony of the 7.5 billion people is now reaching at a level that our species was never intended to handle or to be immersed in.
That's an interesting point.
I think the effect upon us is this. We are the opposition. We're the opposing flow of this energy. And it's much like Mauna Loa in Hawaii, that the pressure has to go somewhere. Now,
it does.
Yeah. I hope that we can get the Sapien Summit kicked off in 2019, because if what I have been given is foundation, let me show you something, Jeff. Allow me to go I think I'm going to show you something that's going to be very interesting. That, I love serendipity, my friend. We've got it in spades.
How would you define serendipity, Wayne?
I find that as a conversion of thought and intent meeting the same along the same conduit.
Okay.
That's how I would define it. So here is a little website. You can see it's daigle.com. Here you have the 209 countries listed below. And this is a forecast simply to 2025. You have gross domestic.
Are there 209 countries in the world? Is that an exhaustive list?
It's serious. It goes under each one of the countries and yada, yada, yada.
Right.
So if we go up here to the United States, you can see a population of 3,326,600, 20,000.
20,000, yeah.
You can see our gross domestic product. You can see our expenditures on military. So we go here.
It's by far the biggest number on the board, Wayne.
It still is. Now, here's the disturbing part to this. They're seeing in here 2017, you get the population number, you get everything that you want, but look what happens when they forecast 2025. There is a decrease in the world population, and in the United States, a depopulation of 100 million people.
So how many million people are in the U.S. right now again?
326 million.
So they're saying that 226 million aren't going to be here.
Well, no, they say it's going to be reduced by 100 million.
Oh, reduced by 100 million. Okay. So do you think that's all the people that are going in the rapture, Wayne?
No, they're predicting worldwide a collapse of nearly 6 billion people, and it comes basically in waves. As you can see here, you can actually see what we own in assets. We have on the F-15 Eagles, 200 and 408 respectively, the 15D, 30, 61. You can just go down the list. You can see what our military assets are. So are we just basically, what I'm trying to get to the point to this, and I'll go back here, and I can do the same thing on China. China actually prospers, believe it or not.
I wonder what they're basing their
No, excuse me, their population is decreased. Yeah.
I wonder what they base their projections on.
They use some sort of, this guy is with the former Secretary of Defense associated with the office, DOD, and they have just gone through here. And as you can see, there's a lot that they don't know.
Right. China's not
Yeah.
exactly forthcoming with their
Yeah.
military information. And, you know, Sovereign Key said something very interesting yesterday, or someone in the chat room said that, you know, we kind of came to an agreement. I'm not sure where you stand on this, but I think you're probably in agreement that we are, as a species, waking up. We are, as a species, beginning to figure out the game. We are, as a species, beginning to figure out what's going on. And if we ever do really get it figured out and do move into our full divinity, sovereignty, and freedom, we'll be able to overthrow all the constructs and matrices that bind us. And somebody said, I think it was in the chat room, that what if they decide, instead of letting us uh, reach this place of victory, to just wipe us out with some type of horrific virus or plague or some type of, you know, warfare. So this is kind of interesting in lieu of, or in light of, what you're talking about.
Yeah, and you know, as you were saying that, what I keep on thinking, Jeff, is that I don't think they're that nice. They're going to make this bloody.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, we're not the only ones, you and I, saying that we'd rather, you know, die on our feet than live on our knees, and they feel the same way. They've been in charge for a long, long time. But one of the things that gives me hope is a lot of these old money, elite intelligentsia, you know, they don't really have much experience creating something on their own. They were given their wealth. It was given by daddy. It was given by mommy. They've got a silver spoon in their mouth. But I wonder if they lack the requisite brass in their boxers, if you will.
I'll give a different perspective on this. You're talking the old money, the old guard.
Right.
There's a group of the new titans, and those are the Bezos, the Zuckerbergs. These cats are not the same thinkers, and I'm hearing that there is this huge rift that is basically opposing the old structure that has been in place that owns this military industrial machine to these new titans who basically now have the wealth.
And Wayne, isn't it fairly accurate to say, if you talk about, whether you're talking about Musk or Bezos, a lot of those guys have actually built something from the ground up. It's not like old money that was handed to them. Now, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, but I have a respect, sometimes a grudging respect, for somebody that has built something by their own hands from the bottom up and didn't have mommy or daddy hand it to them. They really did build it up, and they are much better allies and much more formidable foes if they end up on the other side of you.
Yeah, you know, I attended in 1999 an executive meeting was called Mindshare. I was living in Austin, Texas at the time, and this was up in Breckenridge, Beaver Creek. And Meg Wickman was there with HP. Bezos was there. This is when the e-commerce was just an idea. And my company, US Creative, we had the largest database in the world of creative professionals. And we were the first company to build the InterExchange platform, linking a contractor with a supplier. In this case, you know, we had clients like Dell, 3M. My point is this: what we've seen in the last, not even a score, Jeff, not even a score, 20 years. And we have seen our world enter, and what I think we're seeing is this separation. From what I've seen the world in 1999 to 2018, it has changed. I don't even think I'm in the same reality. My point being that these new titans, they use something that the old guard never did. The old guard believes in hard assets, gold, militaries, strong armies. You know, you look at Soros, that's what he does. He is a profiteer on countries' currencies, and he will set up conflicts because he's going to profit either way. These titans, they're different. They use information. And what the old guard is realizing now, this information is a more powerful weapon than any bullet.
Are we better off with the new titans than the old guard?
I think we just exchanged one master for a new one.
and maybe a more formidable master, maybe a more calculating master, and a master that actually knows how to do something on his or her own.
Well, if the product of what these men and women, and I was in a small part of that, but what happened with this explosion of this thing called the internet? You and Sandra D, and I heard on when he was talking to Magenta Pixie about walk-ins, and I thought to myself, well, this is exactly what we did. We built a shell. We built a functioning, think about this, a functioning ability that has been unable to be matched by any god of this Bible, the Quran, the Vedic, any god. What we built, and someone stepped in, is that we built the Holy Grail for them. Because what we've done is that 7.5 billion people are now devoted to it. That is power.
That is power. You know, I almost wonder, I just wrote this down. Wayne, do you think that everybody that has awakened is a walk-in?
Well, it's odd you say that because I saw this story before we came in. Former FBI, he says that there's only actually 100 million true human souls, that all the rest are aliens.
Wow, that's so interesting. Because I know you mentioned Sandra. I know that she was, you know, at the end of her rope and feels like her higher self walked in.
Yep.
I feel like that's exactly what happened with me. So I just wonder how common that is. And maybe people in the chat room can weigh in and see if they have the same type of feeling or not. And that's certainly something that's worth, I think, discussing or pondering.
It's deep, isn't it?
It is very, very deep. And you could take it a step further, is to not only are we all walk-ins, but are we all, bless you.
Thank you.
Are we all what they would call as term as starseeds?
I believe something's happened, Jeff.
And as we go further down the rabbit hole, is there an opposing army of other walk-ins from other places that, like you, I think, weren't you talking about the homo? Oh, that was Deborah L. Smith, Breaking Dawn, talking about Homo sapiens against Homo sapiens sapiens.
Yes.
There's going to be a battle.
So this is what I'm talking about. So here's a story, how smartphones are causing kids to experience altered childhoods.
Smartphones and stupid humans.
So this is a story, Colleen Hart's, about her daughter. And here's what it says. She keeps her calendar on there. She uses the notes part. She loves listening to music on it. She also primarily communicates with friends through text and Snapchat. There are many days she does not have a real conversation with anyone. Holy crap.
It's so scary, Wayne. It's so scary because even old guys like you and me find ourselves using these things. They're so darn convenient. Thankfully, I haven't got to the place where I'm not having real conversations anymore, but I think all of us are using these tools to an increasing degree, and I'm not so certain that it's bad just to read, or just to use the tools, but we certainly need to keep ourselves from overusing the tools and start to get to where we're used by the tool and not us using it.
I agree with you. But how do we convince now 1 billion people under the age, this is scary, folks, under the age of 19?
1 billion people.
1 billion in our population. Now, this is an influx of something that's happening. And the fact that they're wired into this immediately, Jeff, there's no escape for them. Everything in school, I was talking to my brother in Houston about this last night. They've removed analog clocks.
No way.
Yes. You know why?
Why?
They can't read them. The students can't read them.
No way.
Yes, sir. It's an app. Anyone in the chat room, Google it. You'll see it. Yeah.
How can you not read a clock?
You would think something that easy. Do you know that they've also have stopped teaching students cursive writing?
I was just about to say that. Yeah. I don't really understand why. Why do you think they've stopped cursive?
Because they don't use it anymore. The text is the only new language. And I've read a sociologist that was writing that we're seeing the transformation of our civilization by this ongoing influence of technology. It's getting to the point where we won't be able to think on our own.
And Wayne, it's interesting because writing is a powerful tool, not only for communication, but it's a powerful tool for recovery and a powerful tool for intention and a powerful tool for being divine, being sovereign, being free. In fact, Sandra says that meditation along with a writing technique are the two most important tools that's kept her sober now 3 years on the 5th. So it doesn't surprise me that they want to take the actual writing out of people's hands. And there's a neurological process that takes place when you are writing, because you're writing and you're stimulating more neurons by the writing, by the tactility, and by the actual having to think. You're not doing that with the text. It's just not the same thing. And I think they're trying to rob us of power and intention and energetic projection.
They're trying to rob us of what's on your T-shirt, my friend.
They are trying to rob us of our divinity, our sovereignty, and our freedom.
That's what it is. It's so obvious now, but here's the problem. You and I and the hundreds and thousands that will be seeing this program, we are like the ones, we're the outsiders looking in.
I mean, Gary says that when you write, your body remembers what you created. I don't think it does when you text.
That is really good. Yeah, because there is for me to write, I have to think and look back. Yeah, Gary, good point.
And Sandra's got this thing on her phone where she doesn't even have to type the word. She just kind of swipes around the letters and it formulates the words for her. I think it's called predictive texting. So,
wow.
Yeah, man.
How interesting. Predictive texting.
So you're not even remembering what you're saying.
Well, I mean, we just saw that example of that with Roseanne this week, supposedly the Ambien and texting. I mean, apparently our president has the same thing and many others. I mean, they're addicted to this thing. I don't have Twitter. I don't use it. And, you know, I remember it being at South by Southwest in 2006 and seeing Zuckerberg and the boys there. Not Zuckerberg. I can't think of it right off my hand. Square. Yeah. So, but look what it's done. I mean, Jeff, we're seeing something going on here. And the more that, you know, I wonder, do they really plan something? I mean, there's so much conspiracy, and as you said, disinformation.
Elon Musk, is that who you're looking for?
No, I was thinking, I don't know why the name escapes me, but I actually know the guy. So, anyway, it's changed everything that we look at it. I mean, if it's not on Google, then it doesn't exist.
It used to be if you weren't on TV, you weren't real, but now
exactly.
If you don't have a website, if you're not on Google, then it's like you're not really real. And that's another thought, isn't it?
Isn't it? Think about when you and I were growing up, in your crusades, as you were preaching to your churches and etc. There was only one source. That was you and that book.
Right.
So even if I disagreed, which probably I didn't, because back then there was no alternative information. If you wanted to really find the truth back, let's say in the 90s, you had to dig for it.
You had to buy a lot of expensive textbooks.
Exactly.
I remember sitting in my living room, Wayne, with 15 or 20 books spread out on the floor in front of me, open to different pages, to be able to study the Greek and to be able to study the Hebrew and be able to study alternative texts. And you had to really work hard at that time to be able to get at the truth. But today with the internet, only enlightenment is beyond only the grasp of the lazy.
And that's about as far as they think it, because they never research it.
Right.
Well, I saw it on the headline and it said this, so that's truth. I was thinking that I said this on my radio show Thursday night, that the measure of wealth at one time was, did your family own a set of Britannica encyclopedias?
Yeah, I remember those.
I mean, you'd walk into someone's house and you'd see the encyclopedia. And the thing about it was that information, Jeff, stood as gospel truth for years.
It did.
And at the whole time, the reality was that wasn't reality at all. I contend, I wrote in the back of my whiteboard here this morning, and I said this: we don't know what time it is. We don't know what year it is. We don't know. We have lost. When you think about our species, Jeff, we live lies. We subjugate the truth to become the lie, and then the lie becomes no longer the truth. We don't know what year it is. We really don't. Those records have been lost and altered. The great thing that the Jews did when they went into captivity, they did the greatest mind coitus of all time. They rewrote dates because they didn't know. And so here they come out. Then you have this migration of what today we would call viral. It went viral, but back then, when Nebuchadnezzar fell to the Medo-Persians, the thing that each kingdom, when they conquered the other kingdom, is that it was the records that was the real treasure trove. And if you didn't get that, there's gaps into it. And so today I contend we could be living in the year 550 million AD and we wouldn't know the difference.
We wouldn't, and it's because we're not writing anything down anymore, and it's bizarre. It's bizarre. I mean, silly little thing, but well, anyway, I won't even talk about that. But it's crazy, and we really don't know what year it is. We really have no idea.
No.
Does it matter that much?
Well, I think when you have populations that are divided on theology, and particularly where religion comes in, because I will be the first to admit, I can remember studying history in school, but as far as ancient history was concerned, it was the Old Testament for me. Everything went through a predictive time date, starting with Adam, because it was important that you kept the genealogy correct.
Right.
Because otherwise, the birth of whoever it was the birth of would not then make sense. And so I grew up.
Usher's chronology?
I think it is, yeah. 28 generations, right? And then 28, and they got the numbers.
Of course, Wayne, it was a great preaching to say, I know the Bible says there's 28 generations, but really there's 29, because you go to Paul and say, we are a chosen generation, and they go crazy.
Excuse me, I'm thinking of the story that came out with Joel Osteen. Their budget is $90 million. That's not a church, that's a corporation.
Jimmy's budget was $100 million a year before he started hanging around with the hookers in New Orleans.
Well, all I can say is baseball's been very good to me.
Baseball been very, very good to me.
Because the way I look at this, in which I understand now because of the Mandela effect, it's been changed. But see, I remember on I Love Lucy when Ricky would walk through the door and go, Lucy, you got some explaining to do.
And she never said it. And I remember that. And, let me ask this about Joel Osteen. Have you ever met Joel?
Yes, I knew his father, John, very well.
I preached for his father. I guess I met Joel, but I didn't really know Joel. But I've had somebody tell me that Joel is hated by a lot of the evangelicals and a lot of the Christian people because he's trying to bring in, and this is this lady's opinion, she's pretty well known in our circles. If I called her name, you would know she was probably. But she says that she thinks that Joel is trying to bring in some new age, some alternative spirituality in, and that's why they hate him so much. Do you think that's accurate?
I think it's absolutely correct.
So you think Joel's kind of woke?
No. I think that he is on a different side than we are.
So Joel wants a little bit of this, huh?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the God they serve.
Also, you think Joel is just a bad guy, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Delaney says he's a lizard-eyed bleep. Delaney, how do you really feel?
Yeah, tell us what you really think. When I built the mobile app back in 2010 for churches, that's what I built it for. And when I started really getting into, let's say, the corporation part of a church, the business side of it, I never met a bunch more thieves, dishonest individuals. I mean, narcissistic. I mean, you just went right down the line. It was a real awakening for me. Because
Ann says that she thinks there's something very dark going on in Joel's Stadium Church.
Oh, I think it's mass. I think it's a black mass. It's no different. They brought in the same type of. It's the only thing. I'll just be honest with you. It is a mass hypnosis.
And another person says they've seen Joel morph.
It wouldn't surprise me. Would not surprise me when you got that type of intensity of focus, and that's what it is, folks. We all know it. I remember the days when I was a roadie. And, I was hard work, but I saw the bands and I'm appreciative. But I can tell you, when you're backstage and you're looking at from the magician's point of view and all that energy, as you know, Jeff, you were a preacher. That's what you're anointed in, is that energy. And it's empowering.
Wayne, it was so bad sometimes that I would be, I was a walker. I was like Swaggart. I was all over the platform and sometimes out in the congregations. And when it really got humming, and here's how bad I was, Wayne. I got to the point where I was trying to see how many times I could get everybody up and cheering, let them sit back down, get them up and cheering, let them sit back down. But sometimes it was so powerful that I couldn't even feel my feet on the floor, Wayne. It was like I was floating.
A maestro is what you were.
You were conducting. And I mean, I've been in stadiums with tens and tens of thousands of people, and there's nothing like it. And it's so addictive. And I mean, even right now, I can feel that surge. And it's interesting because with all the meditation I'm doing, I can feel that it's a surge right into ego, straight into ego. It's service to self. It's not service to others.
I remember when I was, when Copeland would come in with his believer conferences, and the thing that I worked as an usher, and we took care of the money, the collection, and etc. But the thing I heard about Copeland was this. They said that when he came out of his meditation time, his time that whatever he was doing, that no one could touch him. Literally.
Oh, really?
Because
don't want to steal his anointing.
Exactly. It's happened. He said it happened to him, and he vowed no one would touch him again.
I used to, when I was preaching, I would not come out on the platform until it was time for me to preach.
See? Why? Why was that?
You just don't want to lose your juju.
That's it. Yeah. I mean, you're jacked up.
And besides, Jimmy did it, so I figured I would do it too.
But as you know, it works. And this is what's really so odd is that
it's ego is what it is, Wayne. Ego. Yeah. I'm the star. Here I come. Look at me. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun. What I really wanted was like the Elvis. Dun, 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 boom, 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 boom.
I'll take the I'm walking on sunshine. Oh, yeah.
That would have been great.
There we go.
Never had the guts to do it, but that would have been
great.
Great.
I think it would be a great entrance, but that's what's happened, and that's why that is such a strong power. But I learned from it, and when I learned what was really taking place, I said, you know what? I don't want anything part of this anymore. If this is what God is, if this is the path to God, I don't want a party. I don't want him. I don't want this path. I don't want anything to do with it because this is a con.
And as Catherine says, thankfully, Elvis has left the building. Thank you and good night.
Yes. Although I do have to say, as you know, anyone's taken the tour of Graceland, the Jungle Room is quite the place to really stand.
Wayne, you don't even know the half of it. My buddy was great friends with Charlie Hodge, who was Elvis's
Yeah.
best friend, and we've been through the whole house, behind the scenes, in the bathroom where he died, and it's the stuff in that house. You would just shake your head, and you think, "Okay, it's Elvis. I believe it."
The man had no taste.
The man, I mean, it's just the opulence of wealth and what you can do, and but it's just an amazing place. And I will say this, yeah, Elvis was reading some deep stuff when he died. I think Elvis was haunting Graceland, but I was there this last Elvis week, and I believe he's moved on. He's not there anymore.
Yeah. I think a lot of them have moved on. That tells me something's happening in the ether realm.
Yeah.
I don't want to
And
call
I
it the
kind of
spirit.
like Graceland. I must have bad taste too. I guess it's a Southern thing.
I don't know. I listen, I love the song "We Can't Go On Together with
Suspicious mind.
Suspicious Minds." That where he wrote that right there, that to me was always one of those wow moments, because
Yeah.
that song really always spoke to me. But I think that, and it's just me, but I think that there is something happening, and I wish I could nail it down, Jeff, but I can't. Not yet, at least.
So, Wayne, what do you think this thing is that everybody talks about, the event? Is that just a hijacked rapture type theology, or
I
is it
think it
actually
is. I don't
something?
understand it. It's ambiguous and convoluted when I try to find out what they're talking about.
Yeah,
Is
Shane, I think that Elvis had some certain things to do. I'd like to believe that I had some small part in releasing him. We did some things. I think I got a message from him, and I think that's the reason why he left.
I hope so, because to be trapped into a memory of a life, that's hell.
It is.
It's like the woman in China that they interviewed, 114 years old. And you know what she said?
What'd she say?
She said, long life is a curse.
Wow, really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's one curse that I hope I'm struck with, I think, at this point, because I got some stuff to do, Wayne, and I need some time to do it.
Well, I think when you read what she said she knows no one in the world. And I think that that is truly the reality is that imagine you now have this path that you're on with Sandra, and y'all are going down to it. There's hope. There is a bright future of working.
Right.
But at some point in time, that departure of that vessel will happen.
It will. And I think that, and, here we go again, but I really believe that the universe is trying to bring together as many twin flame relationships as it can, not to give people a good boyfriend or a good girlfriend and have cooties and all that stuff, but because I believe it is the most powerful creative coupling. I think it's a male Elohim, a female Elohim coming together to be a full Elohim, and we need more than ever powerful, spiritually creative individuals now more than ever. And I just hope that people will open their minds up and open themselves to the possibility of moving into some twin flame spirituality and something. Oh, Strange Bean said something very powerful, and this mirrors my life. She used to love Elvis, and then she found when he died, 42 years old, on the toilet, her childhood changed.
Yeah, it did. The thing that I meditate on a lot of times when I'm just, I get into these places now where I just lose where I'm at. I know where I'm at. It's just my thoughts are somewhere else. And I've been getting the impression more and more, Jeff, here of late. And I don't know if it's just a residual from the days when I was so indoctrinated, but I say that there are truths embedded within. In Second Peter, and I think it was the second chapter, I believe, he wrote in there that this Elohim, or God, we'll just use God as a generic term for the divine being, is going to roll up this universe. It will be consumed, and a new one will be unfolded. I wonder if taking elements from that is that if there is yet a new universe being prepared for those who have figured it out. It's not wealth. It's not about dominance. It's not about ego. We have to live with those things, but if we can become mastros, and I'm going to actually use that term, of those aspects of our divinity, then I think we're going to be ready for the next level.
I'm just typing to Catherine right now, who knows Elvis's last girlfriend, and saying if there's any way that I could talk with her.
Ah, love to. I think that would be very interesting. What a unique insight.
Yeah, Linda Thompson was a former Miss Tennessee.
Yes.
And there was a lot of people that used Elvis and a lot of people that took advantage of Elvis. But from, I knew Charlie Hodge. I knew a lot of the great Elvis confidants. And to a person, they say that Linda Thompson really loved Elvis. She really tried to take care of Elvis, that she was had a real true heart. But she just got to the place where she loved him, she left him, but she just couldn't deal with the craziness anymore. She said, we have a nice abnormal life. And finally it just got to her where she just couldn't hack it anymore. And I think she's an intelligent woman, and I think she's got some deep spirituality about her. So I would love to talk with Linda Thompson, not only about Elvis, but about, her life and her spiritual journey.
Well, I'd like to know where his head was
wasn't his last girlfriend. There was another girl named Ginger Alden who doesn't seem to have been a Linda Thompson. Let's just put it that way.
I often wonder, this is what I really want to know. He grew up Pentecostal.
Oh, yeah, he did. He grew up Assemblies of God.
Yep. And we know that gets deep. That forms the core.
It does.
And I think
it's an archonic virus, I believe.
Ooh, very good. And a virus would indicate that there is purpose behind the life. I like that.
Absolutely.
So I wonder if he was really where he was at. I mean, was the battle that we were seeing displayed by his outer body? I mean, obviously there were people that were pumping him up with drugs. We know that's part of it, but I can't help but not think that somewhere down inside, Jeff, that guy was trying to break free of that.
What people don't understand about Elvis is that, yes, he did take a lot of drugs, and he took more drugs than he should have, but the man was walking around with microfractures in his spine. The man was walking around with a hereditary degenerative colon. The man was walking around with glaucoma. The man was walking around with severe illnesses. He shouldn't have been on stage.
No.
He was dealing with a lot, but he loved people so much. He loved giving to people. And he was an intensely spiritual guy. He really was. I've talked with Larry Geller. I've interviewed Larry Geller, who was his hairdresser and kind of de facto spiritual guru. And Elvis Presley wanted more than anything else to find true spirituality and to seek true spirituality. And it's one of those things that's so hard to understand how it can happen. But I mean, he was caught in his own trap.
Yeah.
And he couldn't walk out. Because he loved it too much, baby.
I'll tell you, if time could just have been in different things, could you imagine what he would have, if he could have learned some of the things that just you and I have discovered, and others in the chat room, people who are listening, we're all on this journey of discovery. It's just that, I'm sure he would have had a breakthrough. I mean, I know he would have.
And getting away, before we get away from Elvis, I actually wrote a book that's called, what's it called? Assault on Aquarius. And I believe that I've documented undeniably that Elvis Presley first and then Paul McCartney. I think Catherine says his manager was a jerk. I think his manager was actually an MK Ultra handler. I think Elvis was subjected to savage MK Ultra, Tavistock mind control techniques, and that McCartney, they took it to the next level and even temporally morphed him across time and space, which accounts for a lot of his physical changes from pre-68 to post-68. So Elvis, I think, definitely was a targeted individual, a victim of MK Ultra and Tavistock mind control. And I think that he and McCartney, he and the Beatles probably would have changed the world, and we'd have been where we are now a lot sooner if they hadn't been subject to that horrific acts of terrorism.
As you were talking about that, I'm getting the
Elvis is not reincarnated, no.
The mental impression when we saw what the Beatles did, and that psychically, spiritually, sent a shockwave through, I think, the entire universe. We had never seen any time where you had that much energy from young souls that have unlimited energy. I think it changed the world. I just don't know if it changed it for the better.
It absolutely changed the world. And just to close that loop, there's that book I was talking about.
Ah, yes.
That's on my website. But anyway.
Excellent.
Yeah, it was fascinating. It really was. And, it's sad that, to see people with great potential be, grounded like that. But we all have to carry our own water and hew our own stone. And it's just unbelievable sometimes what can happen.
Well, I hope that we can indeed continue. And someone was writing about Michael Jackson, again, another tormented road. Yeah, just it's a battle. I keep telling people, sometimes they criticize me for having this rebel approach. I love people. I love my species, but I also know this, that leadership requires someone to step up and put the big boy's pants on.
Yep, and I believe that Elvis and both Michael Jackson and Elvis were not devil worshippers. They didn't sell their souls. And maybe that's why they suffered such horrific bondage, because they wouldn't play the game.
I think in Michael Jackson's case that his youth was, I had a pretty traumatized youth, but his was traumatized in a different way, that I could work it out.
Yep.
He couldn't.
I've played peekaboo with Michael Jackson, believe it or not.
Seriously?
When he stayed in Vegas, I've been best friends with the guy since I was 11. His name is Gary. And he was working security. We were working for this guy, and we were sitting in Michael's big house that he was renting, being the security, and we're sitting at the table, and he was down the hall, and he'd reach around the corner with his head, peekaboo, peekaboo. Michael Jackson, just as playful. I have a hard time believing he assaulted any children. I really don't know. I wasn't there, but I have a very hard time believing he assaulted children. He was just such a playful. He was a kid.
Well, I often say he was Peter Pan, that in full manifestation.
He really was. He lived in Neverland. I mean, literally and physically.
I don't know if that's so bad. I mean, there are worse things that you could. Well, we know that. Look what we live in, and to be able to live into, but that would be a pretty hard duality. But that's cool, peekaboo.
Yeah, and he did it for like 2 hours. We're like, okay, Mr. Jackson, what do you want us to do? And he would not say anything but peekaboo. Did Michael Jackson assault any children? The rods say no.
Yeah, I think that he was just, hey, listen, I remember growing up with the Jackson 5, so that's dating myself. Well, that's a cool story, Jeff. That truly is.
I actually started a church with the guy that wrote ABC 123. His name is Clifton Davis. He was a great actor from the show. Amen. He was on Any Given
I remember
Sunday.
Clifton Davis. Yeah,
really a talented actor, great singer, and he did write ABC. It's easy as 1, 2, 3, and he used to get checks every month.
Bet he did. He was on a number of sitcoms in the 70s.
He was, and he's a really a great guy, too. I mean, he wouldn't think I was so much now that the direction I've turned, but he was a good guy.
Well,
and it still is, I'm sure. Clifton, if you're out there watching, all the best to you, my friend.
Listen, it's just that, we all have it. This has been an interesting time in our time. The last couple of years have been obviously interesting.
And Wayne, you talk about something's going on, something's happening, and there's a lot of people, like Sandra, that are highly sensitive, that are empaths, and there's so much coming at them right now. And of course, in her life, there's a lot coming at her too, but there's so much coming at us spiritually. And Magenta and Sovereign Key were talking about this. I think it was Sovereign Key that said there's about 1,000 years of work that has to be done in like 7 years. So there's so much coming at us that sometimes, people that are empaths and highly sensitive persons, they literally just have to check out for like a day, not say anything to nobody, just lay in the bed and take it easy. So if you're feeling that, don't feel like don't let that be cause guilt. If you are a highly sensitive person, if you are an empath, realize there's so much data and so much power and so much spirit coming your way. Be able, be good to yourself. That's what I'm trying to say. People like me and Wayne, we just goes right on by. We don't care, but we know there are other people like us that do.
Yeah, and I can tell you of late, I don't hear, the buzz anymore. I sleep much more soundly. Yeah, it's just weird. It's like, I'm
getting download after download after download. Wayne. It's just exploding. I didn't know what it was until I talked to Magenta Pixie. Now I'm like, am I hearing from the great divine winged council of 9? Is this a download? What is this?
So I'm just going to get one pile. I am a prolific post-it note writer. I mean, they're everywhere. By the thousands. And I write these thoughts down because that's the only way you can handle it. I had a great guest on my show Friday night, Hawk, and it's quite amazing what she has been able to capture. I believe that there are the sentient life forms, Jeff, that have been here that are now understanding that some of us, but the empaths particularly, and I think that they're seeing that there's others of us that have reached a sensitivity that we won't be a threat to them, but they're now seeing us. In fact, it's something that you said. We have to begin to find allies.
We do.
If we don't find allies on the other side and begin to reach out and form a way of communication, Jeff, we used to pray in tongues all the time, and that was said that was the language of the angels. Well, if that is a connection to something, I can still do it. So obviously,
I think it's the fallen angels myself.
Yeah.
Virus.
Then the question is, we got to figure out and make these connecting points, bond them together, Jeff, and start communicating. What do we do? How do you communicate with an ally when you don't even understand the ally?
You got to do some work and understand them. And another thing that you empaths and highly sensitive people can do is take yourself a salt bath, at least on a weekly basis.
Oh, and the reason for that would be?
Purification.
Purification. Interesting. That is worthy of a complete show just dealing on purification.
It is. And I'll get Sandra. We'll do that on Serpent and Dove.
I think that's a great topic.
In upcoming days.
Because I don't
think. Let me just show you something real quick, Wayne. Just
sure.
a shameless plug here, if you will.
Well, that's why it's our show.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a shameless plug, but at any rate, this is, Sandra and I are moving into our work in a much more, powerful and direct way. So this is our new website, Serpent and Dove. If you want to do work with us, just come on in here, take a look at what we do. We do work solely on a donation basis. So this is a new site. And I also wanted to make you aware real quickly of Sandra is, growing and developing her work too. So let me just do this real quickly. If we look at Sandra's YouTube super fast, those of you that are trying to get a hold of her, there's a whole lot more of you that are doing so. The best way to do it is to do this. Go to Sandra D's YouTube channel, which, you know what it is. While you're there, subscribe, number one. And number two, if you want to contact her, the best thing to do is to click right here on her website link, and that'll take you to her new website, Raw Reflections, Portal of Progression, and you can contact her straight through there. Thanks for allowing me to do that, Wayne. No,
I think this is what it's all about. We got a lot of people in our community that I love this. This is a growth that you can actually watch before our very eyes, and it's been quite amazing. Way to go.
Oh, I'm convinced that, and it's not just because, she's the love of my life and my partner in life and work, but I'm convinced, Wayne, that she's one of the great up and coming spiritual powerhouses for the new era. I really believe that.
I think you're right. Speaking of which, this is what I think we can do in this community that continues to grow. There is remarkable talent out there. And this is going to be a big job. It's going to take a lot of hands working. You know, I often thought the great Coke commercial back in the 70s of everyone joining hands across the world.
All right, I'd like to buy the world of Coke.
Well, yeah, but this one, I'd like to live in harmony.
Peace and harmony.
There you go. And, if we could capture that same, it was a magic. I was talking to someone last week. I said, in my book I'm writing, Jeff, what are you going to ask a question?
Are there many immortals who are allies with us? The rods say yes.
Yes, we need that. Listen, part of this Sapien Summit, and I'll be, talking with Sovereign as well. And you can see, I love her energy. I love her direction and her knowledge on that. There's Lisa Barnett with the Akashic Record. That this Sapien Summit may be an opportunity where we could make connection.
Absolutely, I agree.
Do it outside of the government. Do it outside of these structures. Maybe there'll be those who will come and we could actually say we're the ones who really do represent sapiens.
We are.
We are.
It's been usurped from us, and I think we're this close to taking it back, Wayne. I really do.
I do too. Jeff, this has been another great hour.
It's been a fantastic hour. I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank you, Wayne, for being here. What do you have to bring us to a close?
Well, I think we all need to be meditating in this balance. If a lie has been told for so long that it becomes truth, then when the truth is shown to us, we reject it. I think that's the one thing we need to be cautious of, Jeff.
I think we should, and it's almost like we live in an opposite world. Everything they say is true is probably a lie. Everything that they say is a lie is probably true.
Truth.
Open up your minds, and more than ever, it's time for us to ask questions and question answers. It's time for us to be good to ourselves. It's time for us to listen to ourselves. And I really believe that we are the last generation of real humans, and it is time for us to get busy.
It is. And don't get angry. That's the thing. Man, we got to fight against that, Jeff.
And that's one thing that I think the rainbows and unicorns, love and light, New Agers can teach us. They know that we're fighting the same enemies. They hate them just as much as we do, but they're not operating in hate. They're operating in love. Of course, we say all they do is sit over there and meditate, and they're like, all these guys want to do is lock and load. And the truth is somewhere in the middle.
Well, they're probably the ones that are feeding us the energy to keep us in that veil of protection.
They probably are.
That's the way I look at it. And I thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you to all the love and light, woo-woo, unicorn, and rainbows represented by Magenta Pixie. And, Wayne and I will do our best on this side to try to reach across the aisle and see if we can't work together.
Exactly.
All right, Wayne.
Thank you, sir.
Glad to have you with us again this week. Glad to have the great chat room with us. And until next week, you'll be the first one I talk to after the night at.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be great. Oh, that'd be a good show.
And maybe Rex will still be around. I don't know. Maybe we can bring him on.
All right. Tell him I'll buy him some pancakes.
Oh, we could do it from the IHOP right there in whatever that place is called.
Yeah, that's why I said I'll buy the pancakes.
In fact, they say the restaurant might be open, so I think we might have a plan.
Okay. I love it.
And you know what they say, Wayne?
Love it when a plan comes together.
Yes, I do. I love it when a plan comes together. For Wayne Steiger, I'm Jeffrey Daugherty. This is the New Cosmic Knowledge channel. Look for this later on Wayne's channel as well. And until next week, we appreciate you. We salute you. And we hope that you have a great week. We'll see you again next week, maybe live with Rex Bear from Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary.
Let's hope. All right. Be good, Coach.
Take care now. Bye-bye.